Welcome back to Photoshop Training Essentials. In this video I want to discuss and show you what do we do once we have a selection. What does it mean that we have a selection? In Photoshop, selections are one of the most important things to get started with and to have an understanding with. And so in this video and another subsequent video, we'll see the versatility in it and how to make our selections work for us. Because it does take some effort to make a selection. A selection like you're seeing here with a little bit of shape, it takes time to make it look the way that you want to. But once we get a selection made, what first do I do with it? And what does it mean, selection? I'm essentially selecting pixels, actually. And so this becomes an open window. And the rest of what you see here outside of my selection is protected. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, the quickest way that I know how to get the point across is to fill that selection or paint into it. What I mean by having this outer area as protected and this be a window, let's take a look at using a brush tool, for example. I'm going to make the brush size a bit bigger just so we can get into here a little bit quicker. Alright, select a paintbrush with a bright color so that we can see what's going on. Now, if I were to go and move my brush without painting, now you're seeing that I'm going to be moving over the open area and also the area that's protected or masked out. Okay. In essence, it's like making a stencil or creating a mask. I would liken it to kind of a stencil. And that's a big advantage because once we make a selection, I'm going to be showing you how you can hang on to that selection and turn it on and off. That gives us a lot more flexibility. Okay, let's move through here and paint across. Okay, I'm holding my mouse down the whole time. I'm not turning it on and off. I'm just going over that open area. Okay, and so I'm able to fill this as if this were open and like a hole here. And then the rest, those pixels are protected. So I have literally painted over what I originally had. And if you see here, we've got the background, we've just got one layer. And so basically I've completely wrecked my flower. Well, not to worry, I'm going to undo that. You can always go to Edit, Undo, which is actually Command or Control Z, depending on if you're on a Mac. Command Z, or on a Windows, Control Z. Okay, you want to have those controls. But to get backward even further, then we need to take more steps backward because the Command Z, it's a toggle. So we do the last move that we did, the last thing that we did, and or we redo it, so it goes back and forth. But to step backward, we add the Control or the Control Alt Z for Windows, or Option Command Z to go backwards further. Okay, so I'm able to take that out. But you can see that this is like a little hole here. Okay, so if we were to paint from scratch, say on a transparent canvas, I can completely, fill the canvas with something, okay? And let's say I want to do kind of an abstract design. I'm going to put, protect this, the rest of this outer area and paint into it. Let's pick another color. I can always pick the color picker by clicking in the small patch for the foreground color, or you can use the color panel, same thing. It's a small version of the color picker. And so let's pick something a little bit darker and maybe a little more purplish, bluish. Okay, click OK, and get back to our paintbrush. Okay, so anything I do, even if I don't use a paintbrush, I use some of these other tools which I can erase into. It acts the same way. This is a window basically that's open to everything else. So I could do that, or I could fill that area with color. So my selection, I could go to the edit drop down menu and select fill, and I can choose my foreground or my background color or some other color, various things like black or gray or white. Some of these other ones, content aware, has to do with some specific advanced types of moves that we can do in Photoshop for picture correction. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click OK, but I do want to tell you a nice trick. If you're working with two colors, say in our foreground and our background color, we want to set up our colors, in other words, going back and forth. And it's a nice thing to have a foreground and a background color that you really want to work with. Let's say I'm picking the background color. Again, I like kind of like maybe a greenish hue here to work with. And to fill an area with specifically the foreground or the background without having to go to the drop-down menu or paint it in or something like that, I want to fill it, but I can either use the Command or Control key and press the Delete key. Once I have the key command held down, press Delete, and in this instance, when I hold Command or Control, it fills it automatically with the background color. To fill with the foreground color, we hold down the Alt for Windows or Option for Mac and press the Delete key again, and it will fill it automatically with the foreground color. Okay, so that's a few things that we can do. Once we have a selection, we can fill it with something. And what it does is it allows us to paint into or put something or affect the pixels that are available, and it protects the other pixels.